The court's permission, the papers that were left up there with the last witness, I don't think are marked as anything. I just return them to counsel.
Step right up here. Just watch your step on. Remain standing, face the clerk.
Do you solemnly swear the honesty of the court and jury in the case now hearing should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Whenever you're ready, Mr.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Could you please state your name and spell your last name?
My name is Brian Albert Jr., and it's Albert.
And where do you live, sir?
I live currently in Norwood, MA.
And how long have you lived in
I
Norwood?
believe since I think it's about a year, since last May.
And prior to moving to Norwood, where did you live before that?
I lived in Canton,
And where specifically in Canada?
34 Fairview Road.
And how long was it, sir, that you lived at 34 Fairview?
I'm going to guess, but I'm going to say maybe about 10 years.
And how old are you now, sir?
I'm 25.
And with respect to both where you live in Norwood and where you live in Canton, who, if anyone, did you live there?
When I lived in Canton, I lived at one point with my 4 siblings, but then some of them moved out. And then in Norwood now, it's basically just me and my parents, and 2 of my siblings are at school. So they come home in the summer and stuff.
And by your parents, your father's name is Brian Albert as well, is that correct?
Yes.
And your mother's name is Nicole?
Yes.
Now, do you work, sir?
Yeah, I do. I work in IT.
And how long have you been doing that?
That job will be a year, maybe a year in August, I believe.
Sir, if I could turn your attention to the time frame of January 28th, 2022 into January 29th, 2022. Do you recall that specific time frame?
Yes, I do.
And with the 28th and the 29th, do you know roughly what days of the week that was?
Maybe a Friday and a Saturday, I believe.
And with respect to 28th or the 29th, what, if any, significance do those dates have?
Yeah, so the 29th is my birthday. The 28th was the day before my birthday, obviously. So I had a few friends over for my birthday.
And do you recall how old you were turning on the 29th of 2020?
That was, what, 2 years? 2 years ago? So I'd be 23? 23, I think? Yeah, 23.
Now, in the week leading up to that weekend, what, if any, plans have with respect to the night before and the night of your birthday?
Yeah, so I was up in the air. I didn't know if I wanted to go out. I'm a homebody person. I like to stay at home. So I was up in the air. So my plan was to have some of my friends over to my house. We would eat, have a couple of drinks, and then I would decide then if I wanted to go out locally in Canton or not. So that was my plan. And then a few days before, that's when we found out that the snowstorm was actually going to happen, because you know how they always say it's going to snow, and it never does. So then that kind of threw a wrench in it, but we'll see what happens. And so we went along with the plan.
And that particular evening of January 20,
Yeah.
at some point people came over your house, is that correct?
Yes.
And about what time was it that your friends first started coming over?
I would say my friends first arrived probably around 7:30 p.m.
And who were the first of your friend group that came to your house?
The first 2 were Sarah and Julie.
And just for the record, Sarah's last name is what?
Levinson.
And Julie's last name is?
Nagel.
And with respect to them coming over to your house, was there anybody else from your household or your family or anybody else that was present when Sarah and Julie stopped by?
I believe when they first got there, my mom was still at the house. She hadn't left yet to go out where she was going.
Do you know where she was going that night?
I believe she was going to the Waterfall Bar and Grill.
Do you know who, if anyone, she was going there with?
Yes, she got picked up by my Aunt Julie.
Now, Ms. Levinson and Ms. Nagel, how long have you known them?
I've known them, I would say, since high school. I think I was a sophomore and they're a year older than me. They were a junior. So probably a good 7, 8 years, 9 years, 10 years in between there.
And when they came over your house, what was it that you did?
We were just hanging out. I had a few more friends who were on their way, so they came after. Probably around 8 o'clock, I would say, 8:15, they were there. And we were just all hanging out, listening to music. We ate some food. I think we played some card games, just normal hangout stuff.
And over the course of this evening, did yourself and your guests, did you also have some alcohol?
No, yeah, people were drinking, yeah.
Generally speaking, what people were drinking?
Mostly like seltzers, like White Claws or Trulies and stuff like that.
Now, you mentioned that some other friends came about a half hour or so after Julie and Sarah arrived, is that correct?
Yes.
And who were they?
They are, do you want their full names or?
please.
Okay. They are Catherine Duty, I'm trying to think, Emily Fabiano, Courtney Alba, and I think that's it that I can recall as I sit here.
And with respect to those other friends, how did you know them? How long did you?
I knew everyone from school. We all went to high school together. So the other ones were in my grade. So we were closer friends because they were in my grade. So I've known them for a long time.
And just to be clear, when you say from school, you're talking about high school?
High
is that
school,
right?
yes.
Okay, you went to Canton High School, is that right?
Yes, I did.
Now, with respect to having your friends over your house, was where within the house were you also?
We would all just hang out probably, I would say, mostly in the dining room. The dining room and the kitchen were one big open space. So we would be like in the kitchen or the dining room. And sometimes I think we may have like walked into like the family room area, sat down for a little bit, but mostly it was just the dining room and the kitchen.
And the family room area, is that visible from the kitchen and dining room area?
There's a wall, but there is a door frame. So you can't see all of the family room, but you can see a good amount of it, yeah.
And as far as each of your respective friends that you were testifying came over to your house that night, do you have any idea how they got there?
No, I don't know. None of them drove, I know that, so I would assume that they got dropped off by someone, but I don't know who.
So there wasn't like a pile of cars like out in front of your house at any point during the evening?
No, there wasn't.
Now, later on that evening, who, if anyone else, came by the house?
My cousin Colin arrived at the house at some point, and then my mom and my dad and them came back from the waterfall back to the house at some point as well.
Now, with respect to your cousin, his last name is Albert as well,
Yes.
and how is he related to you?
He is my first cousin. He's my dad's brother's son.
And his father would be Christopher Albert, is that correct?
Yes.
He's older, younger?
Is Colin younger than me?
Yes.
Yes, he is.
And about how old was Colin around this time?
Maybe 17, I think.
So was he in high school around this
I
time?
would assume so, yes.
And if you recall, how was it sort of that Colin came over to your house that night? Did he reach out to you at any point? Did you reach out to him?
Yeah, I don't exactly recall how he knew. I don't know how he knew that I was at my house, but at some point he did call me and said, "Oh, are you still at your house?" And I said yes. And he said, "Do you mind if I come by?" And I said, "No, of course you're welcome to come by."
And with regard to earlier at your house, when you indicated that your mother went out to the waterfall, she went out with Julie Albert, correct? And that's your aunt?
Yes.
And I'm sorry, I asked you about 3 different questions.
No, it's all right.
As far as Colin is concerned, Julie is Colin's mother.
Yes.
Do you recall about what time it was that Colin came by?
I don't recall exactly. I would say maybe closer, maybe 10:45, 11 p.m.
And as far as the other people at the house, women that you had over, did Colin know any of them that you knew of?
Yeah, Colin knew some of them just from being in the same town. And Colin's older brother is just 1 year older than me. So Colin's brother is in some of the grade of some of the girls, in the grade of some of the girls that were there. So that's how he knew them.
And just to be clear, Colin's older brother is also named Christopher Albert.
Yes.
And now when Colin came over to the house, as far as the things that you were describing before, as far as hanging out, is that essentially what continued after Colin's arrival?
Yeah, he was just another addition. We just were continuing to do the same stuff, hanging out.
Now, with respect in the home, you've mentioned the kitchen, the dining area, and the family room. Any other areas of the house that anybody went to during the course of the evening?
Not to my knowledge. There's a bathroom, but it's just off the kitchen. So I assume the bathroom. But that's really it. We didn't go anywhere else than that first floor area.
So mainly in the first floor, is that correct?
Yes.
Did you see anybody at any time go down to the basement?
No.
Did you see anybody at any time go upstairs?
Not to my knowledge, no.
You mentioned that at some point, your parents and some people that were at the waterfall came to your house, is that right?
Yeah, so first a group of my friends had left my house. And I think that was probably around, they were only there for a few minutes while Colin was there. So I would say probably around 11:10, a few select people left the house to go home. So at that point, it was just me, Colin, Julie Nagel, and Sarah Levinson at the house until my parents arrived.
And so Courtney, Catherine, and Emily would have left at some point shortly after Colin arrived.
Yes.
And when your parents came home, if you recall, what was the order of, do you recall about what time that was?
I would say that would be right around midnight, I would say, maybe 12:05, 12:10-ish in that area.
And just turning back to Colin for a second, do you recall, do you know how Colin came to be at your house?
Like how he was dropped, like if he was dropped off?
Yeah, yes. Did you know whether or not he drove there, was dropped off there, similar to the other people that you were talking
I know he didn't drive there, but I would assume he got dropped off. He didn't say how he got there, though.
Right, so we'll strike, you don't know how we got there.
Okay, yeah.
And as far as the order of people that arrived back at your home, who were the first people to arrive back at your home from work?
The first people to arrive were my mom, my dad, my sister Caitlyn, and my dad's friend Brian Higgins.
And prior to that evening of January 28th, had you met Mr. Higgins before?
I don't recall ever meeting him. I could have met him in passing, but I don't ever formally remember meeting him, no.
Do you recall ever seeing him at your house at Fairview Road prior to that?
I don't think he'd ever been there that I have saw, no.
And as far as Colin was concerned, when your parents and your sister and Mr. Higgins arrived, in relation to that, when did Colin leave?
Colin was actually getting up and leaving as they were coming into the house.
And similar to, do you know how Colin left your house, or whether or not he drove or was picked up or anything like that?
Yeah, he was sitting at the table and I was actually sitting right next to him, and he stood up and said, "I'm leaving, Allie's picking me up." And so I knew who Allie was because she's my cousin.
And what is Allie's last name?
McCabe.
And she's your cousin as well, is that correct?
Yes.
She Colin Albert?
She's not Colin's cousin, no, she's my cousin on my mom's side.
And so Colin would be your cousin on your father's side?
Yes.
And following your father, your mother, your sister, and Mr. Higgins' arrival at the home, where did they?
In the same area that we were, in the dining room, in the kitchen area. My mom got home and I know she went right to cleaning because she likes to clean. So she was in the kitchen picking up, and yeah, we were all just in that one area.
And following their arrival back at the home, who, if anyone else, showed up at your home that particular evening?
And then I would say maybe 10 minutes later, my auntie JJ, her name is Auntie Jen, but I call her JJ, and Uncle Matt arrived at the house.
Your auntie JJ and your Uncle Matt, what is their last name?
McCabe.
And was that, their arrival, was that before or after Colin had left?
Colin had already left at that point, yes.
And so the alley that Colin was picked up by, what, if any, relationship does she have to your auntie JJ?
That's their daughter.
Throughout the course of the evening, let me ask you this, as far as when was it that the last person didn't live at your house on Fairview Road? When was it that the last person left?
I wouldn't know I couldn't tell you the time. The last people to leave were Auntie JJ, Uncle Matt, Sarah, and Julie. I don't know exactly what time that would be. I can't even guess. I don't know.
And you mentioned your sister.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I was just thinking of her as my sister, like sibling. So she didn't live in the house, so she was the last person to leave.
And prior to her leaving as well?
Yes.
So with respect to after your Aunt JJ and your Uncle Matt McCabe arrived at the house, who, if anyone else, came by the house that you were aware of?
No one.
Let me ask it this way. As far as anybody else following them actually physically come into?
No one else came into the house after them, no.
And at some point, were you made aware of someone out in front of you?
I saw someone outside of the house, yes, a car.
And what was it that sort of drew your attention to the front area of the house?
Yeah, so at some point, my friend Julie stood up and said, "Oh, my brother's outside." Her brother was there to pick her up. And someone made a comment saying, "Oh, no."
Not what they said, what happened as a result.
Okay. She went outside to talk to her brother. And so I looked out the window at that point, and she was outside talking to her brother. So his truck was there, and I saw another car there as well.
And with respect to your friend Julie Nagel, her brother, what is his name?
His name's Ryan Nagel.
And if you recall the time that Julie gets up and goes outside to talk to her brother, where were you within the house?
I was still sitting at the dining room table.
And with regard to that area of the dining room table, how is it that you were able to see out in the front of the house?
There's 2 windows there. So I just turned around and looked through the blinds.
And when you looked through the blinds, what is it that you saw out in front of your house at that time?
Yeah, so I saw a truck, which was Julie Nagel's brother's truck, I believe. And that was a little ways, almost like in front of the driveway of the house. And then a little ways in front of it, there was another car that I hadn't recognized before. It was a dark SUV-ish, and that's all I knew about it and could see about it.
Now, similar to yourself, who, if anyone else from sort of a group of people, either in the kitchen or in the house, did you observe near a window or a door?
I believe my Uncle Matt McCabe noticed the car outside as well.
And with respect to the dark SUV that you didn't recognize and what you thought was Julie Nagel's brother Ryan's truck, was there anything in between the truck and the dark SUV that you saw outside?
Not to my knowledge, I didn't see anything, no.
And as far as the weather, when you looked outside, what, if anything, did you know about the weather?
It was definitely snowing. I wouldn't know how many inches, but I would say an inch or 2 of snow at that point.
With regard to being out in front of your house, those 2 vehicles, do you recall which direction they were facing?
Yeah, they were both facing, going up Fairview towards Cedar Crest. So whatever this is, I don't know.
Let me ask you probably in a better way. As far as what was facing towards your house, was that the driver's side or the passenger side of each of the vehicles?
That would have been the passenger side.
And that's with respect to both vehicles, is that correct?
Yes.
Now, at any point in time during the time that these vehicles were out in front of your house, do you recall hearing anything or any sort of noises coming from the front of your house that drew your attention?
No, I didn't hear anything, no.
And as far as looking out the windows and seeing these vehicles in front of your house, how many times did you look?
I believe I looked at that one time, and then I think I looked at one more time after that.
And as far as your friend Julie, if you know, about how long was she out in front of your house at that time?
I would say not more than 5 minutes, more likely about 3 or 4 minutes she was outside.
And when did you see her outside in relation to the truck as well?
Yeah, I saw her at the passenger door of the truck.
Now, that vehicle that you observed that you didn't recognize, dark or blackish, was that vehicle in one place or more than one place during the times that you looked out the window and saw it?
Yeah, so the first time I looked, I would say it was closer towards the mailbox, maybe a little bit in front of the mailbox. And then the second time, the last time I looked out the window, it had moved further down, closer to, I'll say, the flagpole. So closer that way, it went down that way, towards the flagpole.
So closer to there's an area in the front of your yard where.
Yes.
Now, as far as when it moved, as far as the weather and the snow was concerned, could you see anything in relation to the roadway in behind the SUV as it, once it had moved from that initial position to the following position by the flagpole?
Yeah, I had noticed just some tracks in the snow, indicating that the car had moved up.
Now, your friend Julie, did she take that ride home with her brother Ryan at that time?
No, she came back in the house.
And as far as your friends Julie and Sarah that were still at the house when people from the waterfall came home, do you know how they happened to go home on that particular evening?
Yes, my aunt, Jay McCabe, and Matt McCabe drove them home.
Do you have any idea?
No, I'm not really. I'd be guessing. I would say maybe one something, maybe.
With respect to your sister Caitlyn, who you indicated was the last person to leave the home that evening, is that correct?
Yes.
And were you awake or downstairs?
I don't know if I was downstairs when she actually left, but I was down there for a minute when she was the last one present at the house with my mom.
And do you know how she was leaving the house that night or how she was getting home?
Yeah, I believe her boyfriend was picking her up.
What's her boyfriend's name?
Tristan Morris.
Turn your attention to the following morning. At some point you go to bed. Do you know about what time it was that you went?
I would say, I don't know, late 1, early 2 o'clock in the morning.
And your bedroom is in the second floor of the house, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
And with respect to how many bedrooms are up on the top floor? Or were?
4, I believe.
And with respect to your bedroom, where was that in relation to sort of the layout?
My bedroom would have been the middle back of the house. So I had 2 windows, but they were in the backyard of the house. So the middle, but the back side.
2 windows that from your bedroom face the backyard area?
Yes.
Now, at any point in time after you went up to your room, same question as before, were there any noises or anything that drew your attention outside of the home at any point prior to you waking up?
No, I didn't hear anything.
And if you know about what time was it that you woke up later on that morning?
I can't recall the exact time. I'd say maybe, I know previous testimony I may have said earlier, but I don't believe it was that early. I would say 7:30, 8 a.m.
What was it that woke you up that morning?
My dad had knocked on my door.
And without any specifically that you that talked about, following that conversation, where did you?
I just threw on some clothes and I went downstairs into the main first floor of the house.
When you came downstairs into the main first floor area of the house, who, if anyone, did
Yeah,
you
so when I went down there, it was my mom, my dad, my auntie Jen, and my uncle Matt.
And about how long were you down in
I would say the first time I went down there, I would say I was down there for maybe 15 minutes or so.
You said the first time you went down?
No.
You were asked
Well, yes,
some
I went back
questions
up into my room after I was down there the first time, and then I came back downstairs.
Yes.
You were there with friends and family?
And at that point, there was
Yes.
no one there besides me and my parents.
And that second or subsequent time that you came downstairs that morning, do you know about how long it was after the first time?
I would say maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours maybe.
Now, with respect to your birthday, as far as what, if any, ritual or thing do you have with regard to your Aunt Julie?
Oh yes. So my aunt likes to get me donuts. It started, I don't even know, probably when I was like in middle school. Because I used to really like donuts. So every birthday she would give me six donuts in a box, in a card. And that was just our ritual. She would bring it over every day, every time it was my birthday.
And did you get those as far as the donuts and the card and everything at some point on that particular morning?
Yes, I believe that when I went downstairs the first time, the donuts and the card were there already, so I had known that she had come by and dropped them off for me.
Did you physically actually see your Aunt Julie on that particular morning?
No, I didn't see her then.
May I approach?
Yes.
Sir, I'm going to show you a series of four photographs. I just asked you to look at those.
Okay. Okay.
And just generally speaking, do you recognize what's depicted in those photographs?
Yes, this is my old residence.
Old residence at 34 Fairview Road, is that correct?
Yes.
And generally speaking, what's depicted in those photographs, is that a fair and accurate portrayal of what the house looked like around that time?
Yes.
May I approach again, Your Honor? Call multiple seat to introduce and admit as the next floor exhibit.
Any objection, Ms. Little? Okay, thank you.
May I return to the witness, Your Honor? Just going to place before you what's now been marked as Exhibit 71, 72, and so on.
Okay.
And Your Honor, with the court's permission, I would ask that those three photographs be published in succession.
Okay.
And Ms. Gilman, if I could first have, I believe it's 2592. What's up on the screen, is that what you have before you, as I believe it should be Exhibit 71, probably?
Yes, that's the same.
And again, just for the record, you recognize what's up on the screen now?
Yes, I do.
Now, before I get into the photograph, there is one other question that I need to ask. As far as, with respect to the tenor and demeanor of that evening, how would you describe, from when your friends were there to the time that the folks came back from the waterfall, how was the mood within the house?
Cheerful, fun. Everyone was having a great time.
Any fights, any arguing, any tension, anything else that you noted of note with regard to that?
No, not at all.
And I believe, sir, there should be a laser pointer on the desk there in front of you. Just push the button on top.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you a question about it with respect to the picture.
Okay.
Now, with regard to the front area of your house at 34 Fairview Road when you live, there's basically two doors on the front of the house, correct?
Yes.
And if you could just use that laser pointer and direct the jury's attention.
Okay. So this would be the first door right here, and this is the second door.
And the first door is sort of further away from the driveway. Is that sort of the front door area of the home?
Yes, that's the front door. The side door leads just right into the family room.
And as far as around this time, even if you recall, where were people sort of coming in and going out of your house?
I don't know, use both doors.
And what we're calling sort of the front door area, that's your, I'm sorry, that sort of garage leads into the living room?
Yes.
And so the front door further in the garage, where does that lead into?
Area, and then if you take a right, it leads you to the dining room, kitchen, and then you keep going into the family room.
Now, if you don't take a right and go into the kitchen and the dining room and then into the family room, you just go straight, where does that lead you?
You can't really go straight. If you walk in a little ways to the left, there's a set of stairs that go upstairs, and you can go straight a little bit, and then to your left again, there's stairs that go downstairs into the basement.
Now, in addition to you, your mother, your father, did around this time in January 2022, did you have a pet as well?
Yeah, we had a dog, Chloe.
What was the dog's name, Chloe?
Yes. We had her for a few years. I don't know exactly how many years, but a few years.
Now, on that night specifically of January 28th leading into the 29th.
So the dog was actually upstairs in my parents' bedroom. She likes to sleep up there and stay up there. So she was upstairs when my friends were downstairs. And at one point, after my dad came home, it was asked if someone let the dog out. And I said, sorry, I forgot, because it was my responsibility, because I was the only one home. So he went upstairs to get the dog, got the dog, brought her downstairs, let her outside.
And so when someone would let Chloe outside around this time, so can you describe that process as far as would it be a leash or just let her out, or how would that?
Yeah, so we had a fenced-in backyard. So we just let her through the back door and open the door, and she was able to run around out back. Yeah, we stay around the kitchen area, yeah.
And Ms. Gilman, if I could have the next photo up on the screen, 259. So the next exhibit would be number 72. Is that what's up on the screen? Is that what you have before you, sir?
Yes.
Now, if you could, with regard to this photograph, you were mentioning something about a flagpole in the area.
Yeah.
Using that laser pointer, you could direct the jury's attention to where that is.
Right here.
Now, with respect to this photograph that's up on the screen right now, Ms. Nagel's brother Ryan, where was, if you could direct the jury's attention to where it was about to observe that?
He would have been more this way, so the photo doesn't show you all, but he would have been more in front of the driveway over here.
And that first time that you looked out the window, where was the dark SUV?
I believe that was right around the mailbox area, right about right here.
And then again, if you could direct your attention to the second time that you looked out and the SUV had moved, where had it moved?
It was more down this way, on the side of the road.
Now, if you could, as far as the windows that you're talking about in the kitchen area that you were looking out of, do you see those in this photograph as well?
Yes, I do.
If you could direct the jury's attention.
Those are about right, those two right there.
Thank you.
Yep.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have the last photograph from that set. So what you have for you now is exhibit 73.
Yes.
And again, this is another photograph of the front area of your home, taken around.
Yes.
And as far as the flagpole in this particular area, that the left center of the screen, is that correct?
Yes.
Now, in between the time that you saw that dark SUV that you didn't really recognize in the area of the mailbox and then further down, did you see it at any other points moving along?
No, I just caught it as it had already moved. By the time I looked out the window, I noticed that it had moved up.
And facing in the same direction, is that correct?
Yes.
Same passenger side door that was facing your house?
Show
Yeah.
Mr. Lally.
And as far as the dark SUV,
you don't have to sit and read the entire thing.
At any point in time, did you look out and not see the dark SUV?
No, I didn't look out the window again.
So for the rest of the evening, you didn't look out the window?
No.
Now, in reference to the time that expired between the time that you saw it in the area of the mailbox and the time that you over by the flagpole, do you have any idea how long period of time that was?
I would say probably within a couple minutes. It wasn't a long period of time that I looked out the window.
And as far as your friend Julie, who had gone out to the pickup truck to talk to her brother Ryan, was she still outside around the...
She could have been. I'm not sure if she was at that point, but she could have been.
And Ms. Gilman, you can take that. May I have just one moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
Let me just ask just a couple of questions, sir.
Okay.
Regard to that morning when you woke up, your father was at your door.
Yes.
As far as from what you could see of his person, what, if any, injuries or anything did you observe on his person at that time?
On my father?
Yes.
Nothing.
Now, at that time, January 28th and January 29th, 2022, did you know anybody by the name John O?
I knew of the name, but I didn't know him personally, no.
And when you say you knew of the name or you knew of him, how did you know?
I knew he was friendly with my auntie JJ, Jan McCabe, and his niece was friendly with my cousin Jen's daughter.
And as far as Miss McCabe's daughters, what if any sort of relationship did you have with them, specific to them, beyond sort of your other cousins?
Oh yeah, so for a while, I think when I was in college or maybe the end of high school, I would help out because there was 4 girls, so they always had like multiple sports going on and stuff. So I would drive them to and from practices or be there after school if JJ had to be somewhere. So I spent a good amount of time with them and basically babysitting, but more just driving around and stuff like that.
Through them, is that how you came to know Mr. O'Keefe's niece, Caitlyn?
Yes.
And you gave her rides to places as well?
Yeah, occasionally when she would come back to the house after school, I'd drive her to CCD or whatever.
And had you ever met, to your recollection, John O'Keefe or anybody by the name of Karen Read prior to January 28th?
John O'Keefe, no. He could have came into the house once when I was there at my aunt JJ's house, and we could have said hi, but I don't remember formally meeting him, and I never met Karen Read either.
On that evening, again, January, beyond the people.
I don't know if I'm going to be the best speller, but I'll try. I think that's good. The first one's correct. You're welcome.
All right, thank you, Ms. Little.
Thank you, Anna. Mr. Albert, the first time you ever spoke with anyone from the Massachusetts State Police, the Canton Police Department, or the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office was on July 6, 2023, correct?
Yes, I believe so.
That's a full 18 months after Mr. O'Keefe's death, correct?
Yes.
Who was present for that interview?
I spoke with 2 troopers, I believe, and my lawyer.
Trooper Proctor was there?
Yes.
And this interview actually took place at your family's defense attorney's office, correct?
Objection, Your Honor.
The objection system.
This interview took place at your attorney's office.
Yes.
Your sister, Caitlyn Albert, was also present, correct?
She was there for some time, but she wasn't when I was interviewing. She wasn't in the room with me, no.
And that was also the first time they had spoken with your sister as well about these events, correct?
Objection.
And to be clear, the Massachusetts State Police only interviewed you after you were called to testify before a grand jury.
Objection.
Separate proceeding, correct? I want to direct your attention to your testimony regarding your cousin, Colin Albert. You testified today that Colin Albert called you to come to the house, correct?
I believe so, he did, yeah.
Do you recall some prior testimony in which you said that you all had exchanged Snapchats about what you were doing that night in the house?
No, I don't believe I said that. I said for him to know that I was at the house, he could have seen a Snapchat that I had sent, but he didn't ask me on Snapchat if he can come over. I said more of that could have seen a Snapchat saying that we were at my house. That's how he knew, because I didn't know how he knew that we were there.
You and your cousins frequently communicate on Snapchat, correct?
Occasionally here and there.
You actually have a cousin group chat on Snapchat, don't you?
Yeah, we do, an Albert cousin group chat.
Who else is on that Snapchat?
There's all my cousins, a lot of us, a good amount of my cousins.
Would that include you,
Yep,
Colin Albert,
yep.
Allie McCabe?
No, she's not an Albert.
Do you have a group chat in which Allie McCabe is a member?
I believe we have a cousins on my mom's side group chat, yes. But she wouldn't be in that group chat with Colin, no.
Understood. And do you still have any of the messages you exchanged with your cousin on January 28th?
I don't know, can you rephrase the question?
Do you have any of those Snapchat messages or other messages that you exchanged with your cousin Colin Albert on January 28th?
No, I'm not even sure if there was any messages. Not to my knowledge, I don't know.
You testified that Colin arrived around 10:45 or 11 p.m., correct?
I said that, yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Who else was at the house when the clock struck midnight as it became your birthday?
When it hit my birthday, it was just Colin, Julie, Nagel, and Sarah Levinson.
I think it
Any
reads.
sort of celebration for your birthday when the clock struck midnight?
No.
What were you guys doing?
We were just sitting there. Probably happy birthdays were exchanged, but it was nothing crazy. I'm not a big birthday person like that.
And where in the house were you guys at that point?
In the dining room area.
You testified that your parents, Brian Higgins, arrived shortly after midnight with your
Yeah, I believe I said around 12:05, 12:10 in that area.
Describe what happened when they came into the house that night.
They all just walked in the door, and at that point, my cousin Colin was standing up to leave. They passed each other, said hi, and that was it.
Mr. Albert, you never actually observed Colin leave in a vehicle from 34 Fairview, correct?
No, I didn't see with my eyes, no.
In fact, you said you only looked out the window 2 times that day.
Yes, that's true. Like as soon as he got home, so around like a little after 12.
So would that have been before or after you sort of walked towards the door?
Colin had already already left at that point.
Where did your dad go?
He went upstairs into his bedroom where Chloe was there, brought her downstairs, and went to the back door and let her out.
And you were asked by Mr. Lally if your father kind of stands by the door and waits for Chloe before he lets her in.
Yeah,
But you testified that he was just generally in the kitchen area, correct?
yeah, the kitchen is by the back door.
But he's not standing by the door waiting for her. She's an off-leash dog. She can go out, do her business, and you can open the door sometime later, correct?
Objection.
Can you answer that? Is that correct?
Could you say it again, please?
Your father wasn't standing by the door, staring at Chloe the entire time that she was outside, correct?
No, I wouldn't. Not the whole time, no.
You testified earlier that Julie Nagel went outside to speak with her brother to indicate that she no longer needed a ride. Do you recall that testimony?
I'm not sure if I said that exactly, but yeah.
Can you describe what you saw the first time you looked out the window?
I just saw a little, in front of the driveway a little bit, I saw a truck. I saw my friend Julie at the passenger door, I suppose talking to the people in the truck. And a little ways up, I saw another dark SUV that I wasn't aware of.
And so you'd agree that there was nothing obstructing the view between the truck and the dark SUV, correct?
Not from my vantage point, no.
The second time you looked out the window, the only difference you saw was that Ms. Reed's vehicle had pulled up, correct?
Well,
Lally?
No redirect, Your Honor.
Sorry?
No redirect.
I'm all set?
All right, Mr. Albert, you are all set, sir.
Thank you.